welcome everybody to episode. Is this 68 already, Bailey? Episode 68 of Everything Teams Phone Live. We've got an amazing guest set up for you today, and today it's all about the contact center. So stay with us. The contact center stuff in Microsoft Teams and Dynamics. It's pretty exciting. We've got an expert on hand to help us navigate through this. But before we do that, introduce him. We're going to go, Bailey. I know you've got some housekeeping stuff that you'd like to take care of. What do you got for us?
Yep. As you guys know, this podcast is sponsored by Momentum, where we elevate your business with Microsoft Teams for seamless company-wide collaboration. Now back to you guys for episode 68.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Bailey. Brandon, how are you today, buddy?
Man, I was expecting a tagline. Last week we talked about, I always think about the Saturday morning cartoons of batteries sold separately. I'm like, come on, we got to come up with like a little sponsored by and then a little tagline. But
that was a good tagline. Bailey did pretty well there.
She does tagline. She does fantastic. My brain always goes there. Batteries sold separately.
All right,
sold separately, something like that. I don't know, but I will say, I what is this? Probably the 6th or 8th episode with our new intro, and I don't get tired of it. It's such a cool intro.
It gets you in the mood, right? The little, I get my little shoulders moving. Like it's a pretty good little jingle. I like it a bunch.
Gets you motivated.
That's right. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us. We're excited to introduce our guest, Chris Goodwill, right from across the pond. It's his evening today. He is definitely staying up late to join us here live on Everything Teams Phone Live. So, Chris, welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks for having me on.
Excellent. Chris, I see your polo there. You've got the logos on, stuff like that. Who do you work for, Chris? What do you do on a daily basis?
So I work for a UK-based systems integrator called Simity. We're pure play Microsoft, and we specialize in Teams, so anything modern work, and then what we're going to talk about today, now into the business application side. I'm a strategic partner manager and a subject matter expert on contact center. So that's my focus. I've got about 30 years experience in voice and data, 15 years in engineering, and then 15 years in the Microsoft partner ecosystem. So yeah,
that's
excited to talk to you about Dynamics today.
What a great sort of roundabout, sort of all-encompassing history and experience sort of set to kind of go build from, right? Because oftentimes if you work with Microsoft partners that are, maybe they've been in the space a long time, they sell licenses, they do that sort of stuff, and voice is a real, like having that background in voice, it's a real sort of asset in today's world now, because you've got Teams, lots of phone stuff going on with Teams, and you've got the contact center that Microsoft's now deploying. So it's pretty interesting when you come with a voice background, because I think it lends to what everyone expects their voice to do, and you just kind of make it happen with all the new bells and whistles, if you will, right? So that's pretty cool. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, I think having the background, engineering background has helped, but the voice specifically, as I moved into the Microsoft ecosystem, and we started with OCS and Link and Skype, moved on to Teams, integrated contact centers, and now the Dynamics 365 contact center launch, which was GA on the 1st of July, is having that experience of understanding what good quality voice looks like, and also omnichannel, as we've come into that over the last few years, has really helped. And I do bridge this gap, so I'm kind of technical and I'm commercial, and together with colleagues at Simity, then we're perfectly placed. Modern work partner with really strong voice and CCAS skills. Dynamics 365 contact center is going to be really interesting for them. So yeah, look forward to chatting about it now.
Yeah, I'm just going to chime in on just that background that you spoke about, Chris. On I think the value there is also, and I'm sure we'll get into the details later on, as you're talking to your customers. I imagine a lot of them are on legacy systems, and you're working with them to lift them into this what we'll call the modern work era, around Dynamics and how those calls are going to flow through and then be logically, handled from a Dynamics solution perspective. I know working with our customers kind of in a similar environment, voice is always like the number one holdup. Like, well, how are you going to get? I'm using this vendor over here. I'm using an in-house hardware platform that we host for my contact center, and I just don't understand how you're going to get it into Teams and make it work. And I think having that background is hugely valuable, because a lot of times we'll come to a table where and I'm not going to necessarily say partners, but partners can speak to maybe the Microsoft aspect, but they can't help the customer with the voice aspect. And so there's confusion, there's frustration. So I'll be curious to dive into like your experience of how you work with customers as you transition them and lift them into this modern work.
So July 1, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead, Rick.
I was going to say July 1 GA. Well, it's fairly new to the marketplace, and I want to kind of paint the picture of what we see as the marketplace, and where you think this is going to slot in. Because today, if you look at the big players in the market, if you go a Genesis, a Five9s, a Nice Incontact. And then you've got a different tier of contact centers, and there's the smaller brand contact centers, if you will. Lots of the VoIP providers are doing the CX environment thing, and then you've got the really specialized guys that are building into the Teams platform. Is it Enable? It's Connect and it's Enable. Is that right? Or Connect and what's the
Connect, Extend, and Connect and Extend, and Power, which is not released, but yeah.
Yeah. So you've got those two models. So you see everybody that's the smaller guys sort of sitting in that, and even some of the big guys in that Connect area. But that other tier, and I don't mean any disrespect by saying that other tier, they're sitting in that Extend model. Where do you think this contact center should play? I look at those and I go, those guys don't really necessarily compete, I think, on the big global level where you go Genesis, Five9s, and you can accomplish a lot with them. But I tend to think, and this is my own personal opinion, that those are the big guys in the marketplace. And if you're looking for a massive contact center, those are the guys you go to. But now you've got this Microsoft, this Dynamics contact center, and I'm pretty interested to understand the components and more about it, because I think it's going to play in this big space. What's your thought where this thing is going to land?
Yeah, to say this is new, the launch is new, the product name is new, but let's not forget, Microsoft have had a huge heritage in terms of building customer service platforms. So we can go way back. I think it was the customer care framework, which was then made an add-in for Dynamics 365. And then we saw the evolution into customer service and the omnichannel piece that was added on. So they have got a lot of experience. We've not seen a direct, what I call contact center as a service, CCaaS play from Microsoft, though. They developed purposefully an ISV ecosystem. So what you've described, some of the certified vendors that play across the spectrum of clients. So we work with a couple of those smaller ISVs, and they do scale, but typically they're not in the larger kind of global organizations, although we do have some deployments where they are in multi-region. But Microsoft coming in, really, it's kind of, I suppose it is a bit of a threat to that ISV ecosystem. They've got to see it as a compete now. I think Microsoft are really playing for some of the clients who have Salesforce and ServiceNow and other platforms, but this isn't necessarily a replacement of their existing CRM, and that's the real change. Like when they unhinged it from Dynamics 365 CRM, it's then a much more broader market they can address. So the platform itself is made up of a number of components. So you're leveraging, it's built on Azure, you're leveraging Azure Communication Services. Microsoft acquired Nuance a couple of years ago. So in terms of conversational intelligent voice bot technology, they've got that built in now. Obviously, it interfaces with modern work piece. So in terms of Teams and single pane of vision, being able to communicate with people across the organization, that is there. It draws on Power BI for data and reporting and visualizations. But the final piece, and really I think this is the reason it's taken a while to be launched. I was expecting to see it, like, in fact, I was talking to a colleague earlier, 18 months, 2 years ago, I've been talking about it, been waiting for it, been almost waiting since Link, really, that there'd be a Microsoft offering. And they have got the Teams Queues app, which comes out generally available this month, but that's a lighter version, really, giving some functionality into Teams Premium. But this play, and they've waited for Copilot, definitely. So it's called Copilot First Contact Center. Part of me thinks they should have called it the Copilot Contact Center, because by calling it Dynamics 365 Contact Center, which is a mouthful in itself, it also, the clients and potentially partners, but clients will be thinking there's still that tie into the Dynamics 365 piece, and there isn't. There doesn't have to be. It can be headless, it can be standalone, or it can be integrated with third-party CRMs, and that's really important that customers understand that. This is now something that can play with Salesforce, ServiceNow, SAP, and Zendesk. There's a connector for Salesforce already available. Other connectors will be built and released. So yeah, it's super exciting, and it does play. We're talking about which segments it plays in, and I think some of those lower-end ISV offerings suit small and medium-sized businesses. Maybe they're using a little bit of omni-channel. Maybe they got a little bit of WhatsApp going on, some voice and email. But for this offering, it is primarily, I think, aimed at large and enterprise organizations, perhaps where they're already leveraging omni-channel. But one of the key things is having these knowledge sources. And the reason for that is the Copilot piece. So we can get into that with Agent Assist and the self-service, but it's really important that there are data sources that a customer, that an organization can draw on.
Right. So this is where I was thinking about the name, even the name, just even for me, right? You hit on it exactly. Still having that Dynamics name in there, you kind of go, is it standalone? I know they say it's standalone, but is there a component of it that's Dynamics? So you kind of reiterating, hey, this is a standalone contact center solution. You do not need Dynamics. You can attach it to Salesforce. You can attach it to ServiceNow. And then it has all the components you're talking about, the intelligence, the Copilot piece, I'm sure is the glue that sort of brings it all together now. But having the agent bots, the omni-channel, that was the piece of Teams. When you think about Teams Phone, that's a piece of Teams Phone. You kind of go, where's the omni-channel? Now they just did the click to call. I think it was in July also. The click to call sort of APIs, and so you look at that, you go, okay. I imagine there's going to be some amazing applications that start to come available that deliver that omni-channel experience. But having it in the contact center, I'm excited that Microsoft is offering this, because we do. Our history is we come from a UC company, and we started doing Teams Phone. We were in Operator Connect, and we're starting to serve the global customer base now. And the contact center is something that we've never really focused on. It. We felt like you need to have. I mean, we need to have you, Chris. Like that's essentially what we need to have you on hand to go help customers deploy, right? To go help customers pull the data sources together, pull the information together, help configure and deploy this. If you think about the partners out there, do you think that there's going to be a lot of partners? I'm going to say legacy UC partners, Teams partners, or voice partners. You think that are going to be able to kind of pull this in and create what customers need in that global ecosystem, or is it going to be very, very specialized?
I think it's going to be a more specialized play. And the reason for that is we touched on it in the intro, sort of part of my background, some of my colleagues that work at Simity. I think you've got to having strong UC skills in the telephony play. If we go back to the days of Link, when that came out, there were a lot of partners that were just scared. Oh my goodness, it's voice. We don't know anything about voice. It's session border controllers. What are those? What do we do with those? Media gateways. And so at that time, there were, I think, a number of sort of trailblazing partners that succeeded and built those skills. I was fortunate to work in another Microsoft partner where they people there labbed it and really understood it. And as a result, it was a channel. So there were other partners coming to you, either being signposted by Microsoft or just discovering you because you had those skills. I think we're in the same situation. So there are really good partners out there who understand Teams telephony, have direct routing as a service. We have our own multi-tenant platform. We deliver that. But the contact center space has been something that you've really got to build your skills up in and your knowledge. It's not something really that you learn overnight. And having that heritage of understanding how to architect, design, and deploy, not so much the deployment, I think it's the strategic planning and the understanding of how to design the solution, is going to be really pivotal. So it's not just lift and shift now. It shouldn't just be lift and shift. So if they've got voice and they've got some integration with the CRM, great. And that's been possible with ISV solutions. We're talking about now, this co-pilot first approach, whereby the two bits I was going to talk about is kind of you've got two plays for the AI assist here. You've got the agent assist. So you think about contact center agents typically working really hard, maybe not enjoying their job, relentless, just can be mundanity in what they're trying to do. And churn can be a problem for organizations where people working in the contact center aren't that satisfied. Now, with the power of AI and co-pilots, pre-integrated co-pilots, if you hook it up to the knowledge sources, then it's going to be able to provide that assist as you're working with the customer to be able to answer their questions. Again, I was talking to someone earlier today. What's a contact center all about? It's answering someone's query. It's answering a question, isn't it? We can get bogged down in complexity, but actually, why did we contact a contact center? Because we've got something we can't find the answer for. And I think up until now, it's almost necessarily been elevated as such an important part of certain organizations. That will change. So these empowered agents now are going to have co-pilot that can provide them with links, text, pre-generated. Like we're using Copilot in Microsoft 365, you can use it for email generation, etc. It's going to provide case summarization. So you think about caseworkers in certain organizations where they'll be taking notes and then going offline, unavailable to then type up those notes. All that good transcription stuff is taking place in the platform now and can be injected into, say, a CRM just automatically. That is now going to be a given. So that really changes how things work. Go on.
Well, I want to pause on the agent assist part before we pivot to, I think you're going to head to the customer facing side next, is my assumption. But I want to pause on the agent assist because I think it's important to maybe stress what this is doing from we've got partners and customers listening to this podcast to make sure they understand what's going on there. Sure. I'm going to use a basic example just to break it down. But agent assist is ultimately, one example I saw was customer calls in, they've got a certain year model of car, they've got a blinker out and they can't figure out what blinker bulb they need to replace the light with. And so they call in to the contact center, agent assist kicks on, they ask their question, and as they're asking their question, Copilot is curating that data for the agent, and then it pops up the suggestions like, hey, we're 80% confident this is what the customer wants, and that resulted in, hey, customer, this is the light bulb you want. Here's who sells it. You can go get it here, 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 and here. That's agent assist.
Let me ask a question here. Are we talking, is this chat agent assist, or is this going to be even voice? Someone's calling in. My Copilot understands what the customer is asking, and it presents me a potential sort of answer based on the database that it queries. Is that what's happening?
So it can be in both situations. We've got, you've got a situation. We're talking about the omni-channel. We've got voice calls coming in, and it can pop suggestions based on that. The two of the SKUs for the product are voice and digital. So it's digital. It's then looking at the chat the web chat, the chat bots, that other side of things, the social media integration. So these prompts can come up depending on what type of omni-channel communication modality the customer's using. Talking about, I am going to start to talk a little bit about the customer self-service bit, but just to illustrate it, the IVR now is going to be intelligent. So it's going to be able to cope with conversational kind of requests. So it's conversational AI, whereby it will listen to your request, it will then hunt for information, it will, using natural language processing, kind of understand things like sentiment analysis and intent. We'll be measuring all of those things, but fundamentally, it will go away and try and look for that information automatically. So this is without a human agent involved now, and try and give the client what they want. The idea is here saying about kind of average wait time, etc. That should disappear, because if you've got an IVR built at scale who can cope with traffic going in, then voice bots should, if architected in the right way, be able to answer most of what customers are asking. So far, we've seen IVRs that are just overly complex, and we end up in a department. I can hear myself saying, I'm really sorry, I took option 4 because I didn't know what else to take. Can you help me? Well, the voice bots, if they're architected in the right way, it's not so much to do with taking these options. It's in plain English, explaining what you want, and then the co-pilot surfacing that information to you. We still will have the situation where there's a handoff. So we go back to the agent assist, really. But what we gain, and one of the pivotal features of this platform, is we gain context and summarization. So imagine you fill in a form, or you do some web chat with an organization. It then needs to be handed over to an agent, okay? So it's handed over to the agent. You repeat yourself again, and you give all the details that you've previously given, because there's a disconnect between those systems. Think about it in this way. We phone up a company. Yes, it's a voice bot, okay? It will sound more human as time goes on. We'll probably still recognize that it is a bot, it's an inscription. If it can't answer the question, it escalates to a human agent, but it provides all that case summarization, all that information is being provided to the agent, so they can see they're already pre-armed with information that they can then distill or explain in more detail to the customer. That's a real critical change, I feel, anyway. Contact centers have been, it feels like you're being deflected. It feels like they don't want to speak to you. Why don't they want to speak to you? Well, for whatever reason, humans decide sometimes they don't want to engage with each other. So they just think, well, we can, let's reduce the workforce and drive things through a chatbot. Now, pivotally, I don't believe with Copilot and Dynamics, the offering, I'm not looking at it as cost reduction and headcount. I'm looking at it as AI-powered assistance for human beings, because the CSAT and the kind of customer experience will accelerate if agents are happy. Okay, so give them the tools, and this is going to drive that.
Yeah, and I think not only will it accelerate, but I think the customer experience will improve, because hold times are reduced, repetitive explaining is reduced, as you explained. The overall experience from I have a problem to my resolution is, probably exponentially decreased, and efficiency go through the roof. Customer satisfaction is through the roof. To me, it's a win-win when you look at it that way, if properly configured and set up.
We're a society of sort of instant gratification, right? So we want everything at our fingertips, and we want it to be right at our fingertips. And so this sounds like it's delivering on that in a contact center. Question for you: I know you had a point you're going to make, but I want to ask this question just so we can keep it top of mind here. If you think about tier one, being what percentage of tier one are calls today? that 70% of calls that come into a contact center are sort of tier one sort of calls, if you will. And I don't think just from a complexity perspective, not necessarily a technical perspective. And then what percentage do you think that the automation here and Copilot and the platform could potentially answer? It seems like that would be pretty significant.
Yeah, I think, you're absolutely right when, the immediacy of information is, the expectation to just find information at your fingertips. The self-service, and certainly with perhaps the younger generation coming through, that expectation, but even people of my age are going on a little bit, I still expect to find or be answered, in a reasonable amount of time. 30 to 40-minute wait times to get through to a financial institution, can be really commonplace. If that can be answered up front, that's really powerful. I think, 40 to 50% of a lot of customer queries are going to be answerable. I think the pivotal thing, though, is take it back a step. Talked about knowledge sources. So Copilot can over time learn, and it will learn, and that's an important thing I'll come on to in a minute. But having knowledge sources that you can draw on. So, for example, in local regional government, a council website typically might have a plethora of information. So Copilot control that. So rather than have to take option 1 to go to benefits and option 2 to go to recycling or whatever, hopefully from one interface, that can be dealt with. Another thing to mention is the multilingual side of things. So multilingual chatbot now is just there, it's available. So for councils where you've got people from different backgrounds, different countries, different languages being spoken, the barriers are broken down now. So those chatbots, those voice bots can understand what callers are saying. Transcription and translation can be done on the fly as well. But you need to have this, going back, you need to have this information to draw on. So for some organizations, they don't have that. Maybe it's being paper. Maybe it's just not recorded. Maybe they don't have a CRM. Maybe they're working in older ways. But with the platform, anyway, if they do deploy it, it is going to learn over time. So one of the important things to do with Dynamics 365 Contact Center, like Copilot, is to curate and accept where topics, where answers are given. So higher weighted answers. So that will help the system learn. It will also provide the agents and the customers with, the best answer possible. So it can look at a trawl of data. It can see where sentiment analysis and customer satisfaction was high, where the answer was full and the customer was happy, and it will put that as a top suggestion within Copilot for agents.
Pretty cool. I'm super intrigued because I think about different industries that we serve today, and I go take medical in the U.S. Right, scheduling is a reason why organizations build a contact center in the U.S. Scheduling, and you mentioned something about diaries. It's interesting. I can envision where if you set this up, and people can still obviously. A percentage of scheduling is done online, right? Let me click my date. This is available. Here you go. But there's still a large number of people that call in to schedule. Maybe it's a dental appointment. Maybe it's a whatever. Maybe so they call in to do that. And so being able to take on like scheduling as an example, because that seems like that'd be pretty simple for this platform to do. That would be huge. I think that'd be a huge thing for an organization that goes and sets up, 30 or 40 people to go schedule. Now you still want your employees to provide that sort of better support. And if they have this taken on, and if somebody kind of reaches them in an escalated environment, they've got everything that, I can see you wanted Tuesday, you didn't find what you needed on Tuesday. Let's take a look and see what we can do for you as an escalated sort of engagement. But I can see how the productivity gains for organizations could be immense. And having everything in the system, in one system, that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think you imagine the example I gave there, or like in a legal organisation, for example, where you've got caseworkers and a long telephone call with a client, and they're taking notes. Like I said, they're taking notes currently manually, or they're handwritten, or they're typing them into a Word document, or whatever they're doing. Now that conversation is going to be transcribed and available like instantly, case summarization, injected into the database, the knowledge source, whether it's Dynamics 365 or it's a third party, and available. If necessary, it could be translated. So in the same way, the need for multiple people doing translation is probably not going to be there in the future. But it's going to create a huge time saving for organizations. If we think about just how we started to work with Copilot, even for myself in day-to-day work, it helps me in terms of content creation. It can generate ideas for me. I reckon I'm saving as an individual 25% of my time is now given back to me to do more complex things. And just to go back to that point, the threat of AI, I really genuinely, maybe naively, but I think this is all about assisting people in the way that they work and giving them the ability then to focus on X, Y, and Z. It will open up capacity. Contact centers are always busy. Okay, we're not going to see a situation where there's 0 people in the queue. It's a quiet day today. There's 3 or 4 calls. They're always busy. So this can only be a good thing in reducing that wait time, like Brandon was saying, average wait time, getting service to people, self-service, helping the agents in this assisted way, and empowering them. The other side of things we've not even touched on yet is I talked about data and reporting. So for supervisors, so Copilot now, that reporting's AI supercharged. So it's going to be looking at trends, providing visualizations using Power BI. It can look at sentiment analysis and CSAT, so they can see in real time what's going on. If necessary, supervisors can reassign to another agent, or they can barge and whisper, all those traditional things. But really, it's going to provide this real-time and very powerful historical reporting to be able to look at how they can improve service. Scheduling and forecasting, the platform allows for integration with third-party workforce management tools, but probably for a majority of organizations, it's going to give enough out of the box for them to be able to deal with that. And I've just remembered something else that we've not touched on, which is really, really important, is unified routing. Okay, so we were talking about answering your question. Okay, we've got a bugbear. We want to know this question, and the difficult thing has been navigating to get to that. So the good thing now is with the unified routing. So we've got the voice bots, we've got the IVR, we've got the chat bots. But at some point, the platform realizes it needs to be pushed onto a human agent. It needs to go to the right agent. That's half the problem. How many times have we gone to someone in one department and they can't answer it, it needs to go to someone else? So the platform is looking at sentiment analysis, intent, the actual query, the context of what's been said so far, the skills of the agent, the availability of the agent, and scheduling their capacity, and then directing it. So the idea with the platform is to get it to that first person. Historically, we've had things like skills-based routing. They have existed. It's not a new thing, but this is a combination of data points that it's looking at to then work out who is the right person to send this call to.
What an interesting thing, right? Because it is I was while you were talking, I was thinking, like skills-based routing, but it's turbocharged because it's not just skills now.
Mm-hmm.
It's everything, right? The availability, the context of the actual call, like it's everything sort of routing to find the absolute best person in it as quickly as possible. That's pretty cool.
It's almost adding personality to the skill, right? It's taking into account
Sure.
that, hey, this might be an upset user, and normally we might send them to agent 1, but they're really upset. We know that this needs to go to someone who's really good at handling emotional customers.
Huh.
Yeah, the creation of soft skill sets really around kind of the personas of people that you would deal with. I think the challenge here, we talked about it at the start, is who is this a play for as a partner? Being able to understand, we talked about so many different elements of the platform, and the challenge is going to be for partners to bring that to the marketplace and to customers so they can understand it. It does require configuration and setup and design around an individual organization, albeit there are pre-integrated chatbots and a lot of the technology works together already. You are going to need some skills. One thing we haven't mentioned about is getting voice calls in. So there's two options there. So you've got Azure direct routing with an SBC, and then or alternative, which could be with a third-party provider like ourselves or yourselves, for example, if you had DRAS that you were selling. But it is Azure direct routing, or you can use Microsoft's calling plans to be able to get it into Azure Communication Services. So again, there's bits here where clients may not feel, certain clients with larger scale IT teams may well, kind of bite the bullet and go for it. But I feel that partners are going to really need to provide key consultancy, and there will be in different geos a handful of those who are really good at delivering that. Hopefully, Cynthia of one of those. So yeah.
I'm thinking. I think from a business perspective, Chris, I'm a business guy through and through. So here, I think about this from a partner perspective. You've got Microsoft pricing, and the pricing is they put pricing right on the website. Here's what it looks like, for the different components, and obviously you get here's the platform, and then it takes a great deal of effort to kind of pull together the information, design it, organize it, implement it, train for it. So there's a whole kind of partner ecosystem that you could tap, again, from a skill set perspective, to deliver on those things. I'm thinking, how do we build, and this is probably a question for some other time, but how do I build a monthly recurring revenue stream off of delivering the services so that I can make the barrier to entry smaller for organizations, versus I'm going to spend 500 man hours organizing your contact center, and I'm going to charge you this big, one-time fee sort of thing, or do you? I wonder if that could be broken down and delivered over an MRR. Anyway, that's just my internal thought.
Yeah, no, it could. We've got different pieces of the pie here, and the licensing. Let's talk about licensing. So you've got the contact center kind of headless SKU. You've then got bolt-ons. You've got a voice and a digital version. You've got bolt-ons to Dynamics 365 customer service. You've got Dynamics Customer Service Premium, which is the CRM bit and the contact center. So there's this licensing play there. But for a lot of partners, the CSP for the cloud service provider for their organization may well be a completely different organization than yourself. You might deliver CSP, either direct or indirect as a partner. So the licensing money is going somewhere else, isn't it? So, okay, that's fine. Someone else benefits from that. You just have to accept that and move on. We are an indirect CSP, but we don't traditionally do a lot of licensing. So you then got the consultancy piece, and like I say, we're almost going back to Skype and Link deployments where it's consultancy heavy, and there was a reasonable upfront cost to deliver that. So that's going to be a challenge, really, and hence possibly for SMB market, the smaller players in the market, the smaller customers, it might not be as attractive. It might be a large enterprise play. The recurring revenue side of things, there's the opportunity for a support rep, training and adoption. And one of the things I mentioned there with Copilot is there's got to be the ability. You could go in for a client and look at the Copilot kind of insights that have been driven, the feedback, those higher scoring reasons to answer. That needs to be done on a regular basis and maintained. So there's that. And also, this is part of business applications. So business applications, with Teams, we've seen just a huge explosion of updates. Just bang, 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 it just goes in, doesn't it? It's iterative. It just happens. With business applications, we have the release waves. So there's going to be a need to continue to work with the customer for the updates that are going to come through. So they're going to see automatically, whether it's embedded or standalone, the Copilot updates. But there's also going to be general updates to the platform that are going to come through in, release waves. So yeah, but trying to package that and to try and break it down onto a per seat basis, I think is going to be quite challenging. In addition to the licensing, the base plans, then you've also got Azure Communication Services. So there's some minutes there that get bundled in. We could spend a whole episode going through that in terms of chat minutes, etc. So it's not really straightforward, but that's where the opportunity lies for partners, really. But yeah, making it a true MSP offering, I think that will come in time. This is kind of version 2 for me. Version 1 was Digital Contact Center Platform, DCCP, kind of these bits and pieces, this architecture you worked with. This is more consolidated, and we'll see it get consolidated again.
I want to go back to this whole Copilot thing for just a minute, because and you said something a bit earlier about how it's gonna learn, and so it's just now kind of registering. I'm a slow processor, so it's just now registering here. So basically, every interaction is transcribed, every interaction is analyzed. So truly, with the volume of interactions, Copilot or the platform is just going to get smarter and smarter and understand what your customer is saying. It's going to look back on, let's say, the same trouble ticket that comes through from 8 different customers, 10 different customers, and it's going to realize, here's what's actually happening, and here's where we're going to provide, this potential answer. I'm sitting here going, it really is a contact center agent's Copilot. Like, it's such a fitting name, because it really is. Someone that's just going to help them. It's like having your manager who's been there for 10 years, right? Yeah. Kind of in your ear, giving you the right answer. And you're delivering this and keeping that customer centric, engagement at a very high level. So this is really cool. How many? And this is how many, but what's been the most interesting deployment you've seen so far? Now I understand it's very, very new. We're talking, was it July 1 GA?
Yeah. So we're still in essentially pre-sale stage with clients. So where we've been talking to them historically, and for a lot of the customers that we're chatting to, they are Dynamics kind of users at the moment. You can talk about different situations where, this is going to play really strong, where there's already an investment. You think about a non-Microsoft telephony, non-Microsoft contact center, non-Microsoft CCaaS, like that's tough. Like, it's a greenfield site, but they're going out, and there are going to be those opportunities where they're on legacy PBX. There's still opportunities for Teams telephony, and they want a contact center, and they want a CRM. So Dynamics 365 Customer Service Premium is going to be a licensing for them, and Microsoft Teams. And Simity often do telephony and contact center combined. It's often the lift and shift. I don't know about you guys, but we see that quite often, that they've got legacy PBX and they've got a legacy CCaaS platform. But you have got customers where they're already invested in Microsoft Teams telephony. They have the enterprise grade licensing. They're using it and collaborating on it already. They have Dynamics 365, or it could be another CRM. So they have these data sources, and they're looking at switching out their CCaaS platform. This is where it's going to play really strong. If a customer isn't really kind of data centric at the moment and has these knowledge sources to draw on, then it's a higher investment, I think, in terms of price point, to be able to gain those benefits. I think we'll see things change over time. It is BizApps play at the moment. Maybe it will merge into another version of Teams. Some of that functionality will be in Teams Premium, for example. But at the moment, it's a distinct offering. So yeah.
Right,
One of
Brandon,
the things I was just going to say, you were just talking about kind of learning, and that is really important. Think about an agent starting in a new company and what they need to learn and how long it takes for them to learn that. Okay, it can be months. It can be you've got people who are so skilled and know an organization. It could be like a couple of years for them to really truly understand that. You've got an agent sits with a new agent or a supervisor with an agent to train them. Okay, this is going to blow that onboarding process out of the water. It won't be 3 to 6 months. It'll be a very short period of time. And Copilot will essentially act as that replacement for another agent or another supervisor helping them.
right.
So that will be a good thing. I think churn rates within contact centers, I think we'll see those. They'll come down, CSAT will go up. And, potentially there's reskilling and upskilling for contact center agents themselves. The contact center shouldn't be just viewed as the customer service bit as well. There's a whole range of different back office and different departments. That's one of the things we often talk to customers about. So it's not just who are the people answering the phones to citizens, for example. You've then got the housing benefit in a local gov organisation. You've got planning applications. You've got all these people. It's a virtual contact centre, but there's the ability for upskilling, like I say, and kind of cross-skilling, so people can multitask and cover different areas over time. So yeah, but that knowledge piece, if you think about the overhead to a business of onboarding someone new and then the churn rate and losing them within a year, you see that change.
So I've got this thought bouncing in between my ears.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to get it out and make it make sense. Because it's kind of a question for you, Chris, but I got to socialize this somehow. So you've got Copilot, which is obviously everyone knows that's the buzzword for everything Microsoft right now. So you've got an enterprise, maybe they've adopted Copilot for the enterprise piece, right? So like Rick and I, for example, we have Copilot, we use it. We're seeing the huge value and what it's doing for us. Do you see that as maybe a big driver that helps customers start to look at Microsoft's contact center product because they can now associate, Copilot. So that's a question, part of the question. The second question is, how does the contact center Copilot, or does it integrate with the back office workers like you and I? I'm using Copilot over here on my persona, and I've got the agents using their Copilot. Is there this thought process down the road where the enterprise Copilot licensing will allow kind of that knowledge share for AI to kind of reach into other aspects of the business? That was a lot.
It's a great question. In terms of, they call it swarming, or Microsoft termed it swarming, and to be able to, you've got the agent, we've got to the right agent, or as good an agent as we can identify, but then we need to pass on to an expert, and that expert could sit in teams. What I don't know, Brandon, it's a great question. What I don't know is if they are not licensed for, obviously you're going to be able to draw them into the conversation, but that Copilot information, the Copilot summarization, etc., is that going to be available for the Teams user to be able to see, in their Copilot? Now, at the moment, it's essentially kind of, you've got Copilot in service, Copilot for service, as well as the Copilot for M365, etc. So I don't know whether that's gelled up. So that's a question for me to take away, actually.
In
our demo lab.
Yeah, it's just me thinking, how many contact centers have to move a call or bridge in a back office worker that really, really knows what's going on, and then how do you end up bridging that gap? And I know there's a difference between my persona Copilot that I'm using for how I do my job, and it's in my little world, and it's Rick doesn't have access to it, you don't have access to it, but then there's the business application Copilot. And I wonder if Microsoft ever has plans to in some creative way blend a little bit to give back office workers at least that access for knowledge share.
Wouldn't that be just like a simple sort of transfer of a summary that you've got, and you're like just sending it over Teams to the person you're sending it to, as an example? If you need to do that manually, you just kind of take the chat and shoot it over.
You'd still be able to do that. You'd be able to share that information. It was more whether it would be surfaced automatically into a view for the Teams user. But the agent who's been assisted by Copilot has got that information. They can share that with another Teams user. That wouldn't be an issue at all. But I mean, some of the the ISV kind of offerings at the moment, they do have that capability, so you can license for all users, or even have unlimited users to their platform. But those back office users might not be the front-facing agents driving the omnichannel and particularly the voice calls, but allowing the back office to be able to use the broader features of the CCaaS platform. So yeah.
I just thought I did go to the website here and just take a look at some notable things here. So the Dynamics Contact Center, just kind of website to show the audience here where this is at. If you're an enterprise, taking a look at it, right here, you pop over there and you can see what the screens look like and walk through some of this stuff. What's your favorite component here, Chris? Let me stop that. What's your favorite component of this?
I think it's got to be so you talked about the acquisitions and acquiring Nuance and their AI-powered kind of IVR technology, and that's been embedded in this and essentially superpowered. And I think, having those voice bots who can really kind of understand what you're asking for, hopefully you don't repeat it 3 or 4 times, and then be able to surface that information, that kind of self-service bit for me is like pivotal. I think it'll be super important, and people will come to expect it more and more. It'll be a real differentiator, I think, in the marketplace. We talk about AI as a differentiator, whereby if you adopt it, particularly for organizations with Microsoft Copilot, you look at the statistics and how we all know, the 3 of us on this call know how much time is saved by Copilot. So you think about this as an offering, you think about the time saving to an organization driving a contact center, it's huge. And also it's got to have a positive effect on customer satisfaction and customer experience. Like customer journey is really important, super important. And I'd argue up until now, we've had a bit of a disconnected architecture. You can do things with this, and you bring in this chatbot, and you even call recording. It can be separate call recordings in this platform as well. You maybe use visualization or data, like a reporting software separately. This is really pulling things all together. And I think it is a really pivotal place. Satya mentioned it in his recent keynote. He called it out. So it's got to be on their game plan to really push and develop this product. So I think we'll see that. And it won't be, there'll be some big updates. They're going to go with release waves, but yeah, it's going to be a super exciting product in the marketplace.
Interesting. So I was just thinking, as you're saying some of these things, I was like, this is, if you can tackle, 40 or 50% with self-service, even if you're self-service from a voice perspective, right? Not just let me hunt and peck. I don't have a lot of patience, so hunting and pecking around online to find my right answer is not something I like. I prefer a phone call because I'll stick something in my earbuds in, and do something else while I'm waiting for something. What's interesting is I almost envision a 24-hour sort of contact center, and almost like a disclaimer now going, we're only AI staffed at this point, right? Where you can answer 50% of the questions or something like that, and see if we can help you with that. What is it you're looking for? Something like that. I can imagine where there's going to be a place where you know, it's 24/7, right? 24/7 availability.
Yeah,
for stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, this will this will transform customer service hours. You know, how many times have you seen, you know, even if you can phone on a weekend, it can be, you know, up until midday, say on a Saturday, and on Sunday, absolutely forget it. So for the majority, hopefully a majority of inquiries that we have, you're going to be able to deal with those in terms of self-service, and it will be 24/7.
That's pretty darn cool.
So I have another question for you, Chris, and it's
Brandon, you've got so many questions.
my mind is, you know, just disclaimer, I came from a contact center background in the BPO space, so like my mind is just thinking of all this stuff. But how do you see AI playing a role in the compliance sector? So you've got this contact center, you've got Copilot, but now you've got sectors that require compliance. So maybe you've had conversations with customers already around this. Like, how do you address that to the customers who are really concerned about compliance? PCI?
You're like, don't worry, it's going to take every credit card number that you want. It's going to record all of that for you. Don't worry.
Yeah, how do you address that? How is that addressed? I guess is
Yeah.
the question.
It's the governance of that data, isn't it? That's really super important to talk about upfront with customers. And I suppose in the same way as, you know, we've seen the adoption of Copilot, is you want it to be able to draw on knowledge sources, but what data within those knowledge sources do you want it to be able to draw on? You know, you might have confidential information, could be medical information, could be financial performance information that you don't necessarily want surfaced automatically. So it's, comes down to the government side of things, having security permissions set up correctly, so that customers are getting the right information, and as an organization you're safe and compliant with whatever regulations you need to meet.
Do you see as an add-on to that, do you see from a deployment perspective, because everything is contained in Teams and Azure, let's just say, I mean, I would assume that this is going to be really powerful for organizations that are already Teams users, that are looking at Teams, Teams Phone as an example to transition to. Maybe they're already transitioned to Teams Phone, and they're all in on Microsoft. So you look at that and you go, is there a deployment going to be quicker, you think, because so much data is contained? I mean, the user information is contained here. Everyone's already in Azure. Now, I get that there's still the data sources to bring in, and there's the kind of the experience routing. I get all that, but I almost feel like it's, there's the potential to be able to deploy this in an expedited manner, because you've got so much contained in a single system already, if you're a Teams Phone subscriber. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like we said towards the start, really, is, for customers who are invested or investing in Microsoft technologies across the stack, then this will drive efficiencies for them, rather than having the disparate systems. You can have these, having the third-party connectors for data, I think, was just a barrier that, and maybe Microsoft were trying to, through digital contact center platform, acquire more Dynamics 365 CRM seats, and they realized that they needed to open it up. But having all of your data within Microsoft, Microsoft partner, I've got to say, it's a good thing. Some customers will be turned off by that. They won't want that. But the efficiencies it's got to drive have got to be huge. And in terms of deployment, then you're going to see efficiency there. There's going to be time savings. I think at the moment, the bit that's going to take the time is actually the initial consultancy piece. I think that's we've got ISV contact centers that can be deployed in matters of kind of minutes and hours, actually, to spin things up. This is more complex, but it's the consultancy piece around understanding the customer journey, which bits of the omni-channel knowledge sources, what's the goals of the organization? What fundamentally contact center strategy needs to be tied to the business goals. And so that bit up front, that discovery and kind of envisioning, vision and value piece. If you think about, at the moment, there isn't a funded workshop from Microsoft. There's the CRM one. There will be. It sounded like it was going to come in September. So we've got our eyes out for that. We've already built our own, like a briefing, and then like a 3-day engagement to be able to kind of get to grips with a customer and their environment. But yeah, for people who are invested in Microsoft, this is a no-brainer. But in certain, I don't need to caveat that and draw us back to, at the moment, large and enterprise organizations, I think, are going to benefit more.
Yeah, I mean, I see this, and this is what's nice about it is, again, you've got, if you're invested in Microsoft and you're heavily, you need compliance and you're skeptical, not skeptical, but you know, all these organizations, when you're dealing with these larger guys, it's a deep dive into the security components, and it's a deep dive into, data storage. It's a deep dive into all these components before you engage with the customer, right? Having Microsoft be the I'm not going to call it single source, but nearly the single source is pretty darn cool.
I think another thing to think about is the reliability and scalability is there. We have, in my time in UC, then there have been platform, outages do occur, don't they? But I think, one thing that should bring confidence to customers is that it is built by Microsoft. It's built to work. It shouldn't be a case of iterative bug releases, bug fixes rather. It should be a platform you can rely on and will fundamentally do what it's designed to do. So yeah.
Good stuff. Brandon, what do you got, buddy?
I know we're at the top of the hour, Chris. We're wrapping up. I got one more softball question, hopefully, for you, and we can end on that. So it has to do with, this kind of, from a Microsoft contact center perspective, I hear a lot of buzz. It's Copilot first, which I think this conversation has kind of verified that. How do you see? Well, maybe I'll back up before I ask the question. In my mind, contact center has very traditionally been let's give a conduit for our customers to reach us. And then it kind of became this buzzword around CX, customer experience. How do you see Copilot changing the customer experience? I'll give you one example, and then I'll lob the question to you. Rick and I talk about this all the time, that, it's, maybe it's flipping, and it's now we're going to go meet the customer where they're at, right? Where did they start their journey? Is it the website? Do you extend the contact center out to the website? Whether it's click to call, chat bots, virtual agents, that kind of stuff. So my question to you is, how do you see Copilot, or just AI in general, changing that customer experience?
Trying to, I think the journey is going to be much more seamless. It should be anyway. Okay, so there should be. We talked about, the context-aware side of things. I think that's really important to kind of remember, that up until now, and I think in the majority of cases, I can think of maybe one organisation that I dealt with, which was where things were handed off smoothly. We talk about omnichannel, we talk about all these different kind of modes of communication, modalities, but they're not joined up generally in the majority of CCaaS platforms that we've seen so far. So the real power is one that kind of, you've got that self-service, but you've also got this seamless journey. So that the customer's journey through an organization should be really smooth. And also you've got to think about, what are businesses in what are they trying to achieve? It's generally to try and make money, isn't it? So yeah, we've got all the efficiency side of things, But for the customer, their journey, it could be in a retail organization, for example, whereby kind of uplift and kind of upsell is just natural and just occurs really easily. It's just a click. It's just a click to be able to buy something that's provided by, a chatbot that's been powered by Copilot, or it could be from the agent. So I think I'm really hopeful that AI, we've seen its explosion really into the workplace and into our own lives, and the apps we use, etc., on our phones. I think embracing it for organisations in the contact centre is a really pivotal stage now, and kind of UI UX, but CX is really, really important that we get this right, and that's one of the reasons to work with partners who really understand it. I think it's got to be. I think otherwise you'll have a poor experience for customers. And
Very good.
Go on.
Oh, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
There was I posted recently on LinkedIn, and if anyone wants to follow me and connect, then you're welcome to. And you'll see that probably on a daily basis, then I'm punching stuff out about CCAS, and not as much information as I can on Dynamics 365 Contact Center. But recently there was a Gartner report, I can't remember the exact report, but it said about sort of 64% of people being turned off by AI in customer service environments. Now, I don't know the demographic or the kind of, what the audience was, what size it was, and they would rather go to a different competitor than continue dealing with an organization that has AI. I think that's historic. I think that's based on it's based on what we've experienced so far in terms of chatbot and IVR. And there has been AI, offerings built into contact center so far. I just don't think it's really improved the customer journey and the outcomes. And hopefully, with the advent of this type of technology, then it will, and we'll see improvements.
I did see that as well. I'm going to have to wrap this up because we're past this thing, but it's such an enlightening sort of discussion because it's so prevalent in the marketplace today, because it's not very. It's quite often that you end up talking to a Teams phone customer, and the next thing is they're going to address the contact center, and they've got a NICE, or they've got a 5 nines, and they're looking at something that it's just a bit stronger or a bit more integrated, a bit more everything. And so this has been really interesting for us to kind of learn about. I feel like we need a contact center sort of practice at this point. This is great.
I feel like we need another episode with Chris, because the whole journey of chatbot is a whole episode in itself. I mean, you could go down, open box on that one.
Well, we'll go buy some licenses, and we'll go put a demo sort of thing together, Chris. And maybe we come together and we kind of work through, just kind of show stuff online the next time around. We'll just go pull that together, and then we can just kind of hunt and peck on a call. I think that'd be pretty fun to go through and see and show people what it's like.
Sounds cool.
Thank you very much for your time. It has been a
Pleasure.
great discussion. So again, thanks so much. And Chris from Simity, we're going to put your contact in the chat down below. So you guys have questions, we'll continue to answer the questions. I know they're going to pop in. And then stay tuned for next week. Next week, we're going to have Microsoft on. It's Miguel Conteguera. I hope I said that right, Miguel. He's going to be joining us on Everything Teams Phone Live. I think it's episode 69. Bailey, did I get that right, Bailey? Is it 69 or is it 70?
69.
69. So Miguel will be joining us. So please join us for that. Once again, everyone, thank you so much. And Chris, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Have a pleasant evening. We will catch you later.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks, man.